Let me just give you my simple thoughts on this. And Brother Wells is I think we're so in concert with it. So I think when this thing started off, um, I wasn't so much interested. I mean, I get what I do with the calendar. I get that. But the bigger thing that I was interested in is how can we as Black folk come together to recognize a day that celebrates our freedom and then use that day for economic empowerment of Black folks, aka December 6th, right? And so, in its simplest format, and Brother Wells, just by way of introduction, Keisha and Brother Clark. So, Brother Wells and I are both from Mississippi, and Brother Wells has a magazine, a digital magazine called Our Mississippi. And he's been doing a lot of work, and he's up in the Tupelo, Mississippi area. Now, I went to school up in Starkville, so it's part of that Golden Triangle. And so Brother Wells and I probably reconnected maybe shit, three years ago at least, Brother Wells.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been fighting a good fight in Mississippi. And the latest fight that he was very much a part of as kind of an unsung hero is when Mississippi pulled that Confederate flag down. And we literally used history. And Brother Wells had a situation where he had a city councilman um, say something or in support of the flag, and he called him racist and a bigot, and they tried to make Brother Wells the scapegoat about that. And so we literally went through history and pulled out the Mississippi Letter of Secession. And when he introduced that letter to them, which clearly stated that everything we were talking about with the Confederate flag represented racism, the long and short of it is, shortly thereafter, in the midst of George Floyd and a whole bunch of uprisings, that kind of effort, thanks to Brother Wells, led to in Tupelo them taking that Confederate flag down. So when we came around with this calendar, and he and I talked about December 6th, one of the first things he did was impressed with the calendar. Did an article on the calendar in his digital magazine, but from that started, and Brother Wells, you may want to talk about some of the folks that you've spoken with about December 6th.
Yeah, I've gotten a chance to speak to a few state legislators around here and a few people that are involved with history and kind of sharing that information with them as far as December the 6th and how we got to that point. And to my surprise, not many people recognize that date or what happened, the significance of it. And they were excited about it. And so I think this is something that really needs to be celebrated. And I am so much looking forward to being a part of it because that's a journey I've been on for a while anyway, trying to focus on economic empowerment for our people. I just think it's so important, and I think this is the perfect vehicle for it.
And family, the other person, is it Rena Evers?
Yeah, Evers. Yeah, Mrs. Mecker and Merle Evers' daughter.
Right. So Rena is still in Mississippi, and I've had an opportunity to meet with Merle, and I think Merle, if I'm not mistaken, she's the last I knew of her whereabouts was Bend, Oregon, and I think she's still there. But Brother Wells and daughter Evers have been talking about this, and so she has buy-in on it. And from what I gathered, Merle is also very much in favor of this as well, Brother Wells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what her daughter told me, and I created a message and sent it to her, and she said we're in. So I will be following back up with them and see what approach they want, what involvement they would like to have, and but it's just a name, and
Right.
they're so special from not just Mississippi but for this country.
Well, that's the first Black family in Mississippi, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
So Brother Clark, I guess the simple part to me was, and Keisha, I'm not sure if it was you that talked about it, of just us getting these types of folks across the country, be it the Divine Nine, just folks it's our biggest obstacle here is just simply awareness. And I think that's what Brother Wells found when he spoke to leaders in Mississippi. They just had no clue of the historical significance of December 6th. And when we wrapped that, not only informed them about historically what it meant, but then how we can use that for Black economic empowerment on that particular day. it's been creating a lot of excitement about it. So, I don't know. I'm hoping that that's the track that we're all on, to just keep it as simple as possible.
And I like that. And Kevin, you may have a cow, but let me tell you what's impressive about that is that they have name recognition in a location where I'm a big believer in pilots. Start off small, figure out if it works, and then it could catch like wildfire.
Right.
And I like the concept of Mississippi. You've already got the digital media presence, you have the Evers family. It's easy enough to get some of the Divine Nine et al. Who are local there to get them to buy in there. If it works, then you take it regionally and or nationally. But everyone, no one wants to be first. And let me tell you a little bit about LA. And I've been there long enough to know we don't like to be first. We're not the best risk takers,
Mhm.
but we're
Yeah.
great to jump on the bandwagon unless and until we've got political buy-in at the beginning. It just doesn't quite happen like that. And the other challenge that we have right now in LA is part of the challenge with Black Lives Matters, with the mayor's office and with some other folks trying to figure out which way is up. And COVID is kicking our butt left and right. So to get folks to think about December 6th this year, Kevin, is going to be hard. Not saying it's impossible, but
Right.
it's hard. And we're coming in at a disadvantage because we don't have a name yet.
And, and,
But
and
if Mississippi can get that, and
right,
that also helps them counter their legacy, then
right,
why not?
right. And Sister Keisha, I'll tell you this. I'm also as simple as this. I have a lot of friends in black newspapers. My biggest supporters are out of Seattle, the Seattle
Mm-hmm.
medium, Chris Bennett and their family. And so I literally talked to young Chris. Chris Sr. now is a much older man. And so his son, Chris Jr., is taking over the press there. But
Mm-hmm.
I literally just had a simple conversation with Chris Jr. about this whole concept of December 6th. And I also know the chairwoman of NNPA, National Newspaper Publishers Association. I also know the chairwoman out of Texas. These folks can easily use their medium to discuss December 6th and start that kind of movement. But, and that's why I was so impressed with Brother Wells. He and I just had a simple conversation about it. And from there, he just started talking to people. And what I believe to be the case was the case. And that is that folks just aren't aware of this, of the historical significance. And now that they are aware, it makes it so easy to use that day as a day to say, on this day it's all about spending money with black folks unapologetically. So that's the simplest way to do it versus, I don't want us to try to make a big production out of something that simply calls for us to just beat the drum of awareness, if you will.
Well, I'm in agreement. I think the shift now is to go to the conversation, um, and who and how we can get this conversation out to, not just the masses, but the people who are going to take it to their communities and create the wildfire. So how do we do that? Is really the question.
What we, certainly. And see, I wasn't aware. The last time I saw Miss Evers Murley, I was in Seattle. I was with the NAACP. She was chairwoman of the NAACP national organization, and she was there. And so I had a chance to break bread and speak with her a little bit then. But I didn't know where she was health wise, or I didn't even know if Miss Evers was still living, to be honest with you. So when Wells told me that, yeah, he's working with her daughter and spoken to her, I just think that respecting that she is of age, I think that she could be extremely helpful in getting us, helping us to get that word out, or as Sister Keisha said, having such name recognition. I mean, who is going to dispute with Myrlie Evers? Who, and at least who in their right mind?
Because one thing I can say about her is she is not in the last I've heard, she's not in the best of health right
Right,
now. Age
right,
is taking its toll on her, and she was better last year than she is now.
right.
And but I think if there's an opportunity to to speak or do something for anything that can enhance the lives of our people, I think she would probably, if she's able, probably be aboard and be willing to do that. You know, I'll try to talk to her daughter more, but actually I want to set up a meeting, a phone call with you and her daughter and just let y'all talk. And I think that will be beneficial too, to both of y'all. And, you know, I think she's willing to listen. They're a good family. I've really enjoyed getting to know them.
Yeah.
And so they're special people.
Good.
Well, that's great. Well, that frames for me what my goal is to try and find a way to get the information that could be shared or could be captured by the folks in Mississippi to get Miss Evers, if she's able, to do maybe even oral history or some type of capture of what her thoughts are, so that if she's not able to share in a live forum like Zoom or some other forum, she can at least share her thoughts about this particular day and the significance it has for her. Because again, every day that we go by without getting that done, we risk the peril of not being able to have her voice and spirit heard.
So Keisha, let me ask this question. Given that you all are in California, Wales is in Mississippi, I'm in Maryland. We got folks in Seattle that's with the media. So let's assume that we could get the Black press to do an article on it, but it got perspectives from Black folk around the country. What's your thoughts about that?
I like that. And when we were talking initially about Mrs. Evers, the thought I was having is maybe it also helps with the transition from her to her daughter and the next generation and the next fight, or the continuation of the fight. So I don't know, besides a couple of words from her, but maybe if the daughter is willing to take up this mantle going forward. And again, if they are the first family of that, the name recognition. I don't want to wear her out.
Yeah.
Which is my bigger fear. And if her daughter is into this fight, whatever this fight ultimately is for economic freedom, economic equity, then she would be a good one. Mississippi is obviously a good place to start. One of the questions I would have, though, is when we talk about, well, if we're buying Black on December 6th, how much Black is right there versus how much Black is online? And it's launched from there, encouraged from there, and maybe highlighting a couple of the local Black-owned businesses in Mississippi, but also leveraging what's already out there.
Mm-hmm. Brother
And
Will.
the other thing is, fortuitously or not, it's right before the holidays.
Yes.
And there's all these other pitches, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, Buy Black, whatever day that is, Buy Black on December 6th. But we're doing this not just because of Christmas.
Right.
Or Kwanzaa, but
Right.
we're doing this because it is the next part of our evolution as a people, and
Yes.
saying, you know, we built this company. Now it's time for us to start reaping the rewards in our own name.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Brother Will, you may want to talk about what you've been doing, even in the ideas around highlighting Black-owned businesses.
Yeah, and because of the decision I made going into 2021, it's something I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm glad you spoke to this, Keisha. It's I've been trying to prepare and be ready for December the 6th next year, and start working on building a site for Black businesses, you know, so we can even build something where we can help sell the merchandise for them online. And once we get to that point, is to be ready.
Yeah.
And okay, these businesses, here we go, just categorize them and everything we need to do and have them ready to go. And because I will be selling this throughout the year. I mean, I'm going to be talking to people every day that I talk to about it. Matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine the night before last, and he just moved from here, and he's been named the chief economic advisor. Well, no, I mean, actually, he's the president of the Shelbyville, Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, and that's right outside of Nashville. And we were talking, and he was telling me he was sitting there sipping on some kind of whiskey. I forget the name of it, but it turned out he says it's Black owned. And they're the ones that taught, their great grandfather's the one that taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey.
Mm.
And lo and behold, I turned on the TV this morning. Al Roker was doing a story on that.
Mm.
And I just shook my head and I say, so much of this is out there. So now, even though I don't get an opportunity to drink whiskey much, but I am going to get me a bottle and it's going to be sitting in there on my cabinet.
But you know, and fam, I'll just tell you that Wells, you know, he does an appreciation of highlighting Black leadership and heroism in the state of Mississippi.
Mhm.
And so he's had some phenomenal tentacles of reaching the people. And so I just think that between him, the Evers family, General Bray, we can pick some strategics and members of the Divine Nine from around the country. All we got to do is just everybody start talking about it. And just on December 6th, we just do it, regardless of how big or how big it is. But if we do it somewhere and it's highlighted, as you said, Keisha, I think it'll catch on. I think it'll absolutely begin to catch on, because I'm just watching the way people react, even when they learn the significance of December 6th, the way it's been happening.
And you know, the other thing for me is this pandemic has exposed everything. It shows us where we stand on this ladder in this country. So many of my friends, you know, I know it's hurt me tremendously, but so many of my friends that were in business, they're out of business, and for good.
Mm-hmm.
This just has exposed so much. It's go time. I mean, you know, it's as simple as that. It's go time.
So how do we use the narrative that we've agreed on that's going to start catching wildfire in Mississippi? How do we share this with people across the country and everywhere else during Black History Month?
Mhm. One thing, you know, if I could say right quick, one thing I was looking at doing, what I spoke to Brother Mac about, is I was going to create an op-ed letter and put it on our site and share it through social media that I am officially endorsing this day and pushing it. But in the meantime, you know, explain to everyone what the day is, how it came about. And I think if we can just simplify it, and people going, you know, because just like I was, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, so let me go back and look at Juneteenth and some other things, and not belittling Juneteenth, but it occurred to me, you know, this is actually my freedom day. I mean, you know, this is the day we officially became free of slavery. So, you know, it's special, you know, and I'm going to push it that way. It's a special day. And I actually talked to a civil rights leader that's from this area and was telling him about it. And he was dumbfounded. I did not know this. And man, you know
So
what?
let me ask a question. And because if I don't ask, I'm going to forget. I like the op-ed letter, but I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
What about an open invitation to the presidents of the Divine Nine, these Black chambers and everything else, to join you on
Yes.
December 6th?
Love
But
that.
you're laying out the story of
Love
that.
why.
I
And
love
Kevin,
that.
because I know you want a video or something, then we also do a story. So it's a public letter that's announced in whatever month, February, that
Mhm.
says, coming from you, and if you can get some of the other Black newspapers or anyone else to sign with you, this is our open invitation to us. Would you
Mhm.
join us on December 6th?
Now, Keisha, to that point, and I like that. So do you have insight, or does any of us on this have insight to the leadership of the Divine Nine to say that?
Our names are all over the place in terms of, you're going to write to the Supreme Basilisk of all of these different organizations,
Okay,
or the leadership. Yeah.
correct.
Now, I am friends with the one with Omega Psi Phi. He's actually from Mississippi. He's here in
Okay.
Jackson.
It'd be a great place to start, because
And
I
they
agree
have
with you.
another group. There's the NPHC, which is all of our organizations, but you've got the Links, you've got Mocha Moms, you've got 100 Black Men,
Yes,
all of these organizations, because we're going to us first.
yes. Well, you know what, Keisha, that might be, I mean, literally, that could be the most expedient way, is that
Mhm.
if we drafted a letter, and that letter had the historical significance of December 6th, and just ask them that in preparation for this Black freedom and economic kickoff in December 6, 2021, will you sign on and I don't know what language you use, but it was the perfect language, endorsing,
Right.
encouragement, whatever. But I think that would be a perfect way for us to get this thing started. Let us draft a letter that again ask their support based on the historical information. And to Brother Wells' point, I don't want people getting in their feelings like all of a sudden we're dismissing Juneteenth. We're not doing that at all.
But it's a good opportunity to clarify the difference.
Yes, without question.
No, because I can guarantee you there are a lot of people who are not into it and into history that much, but would think of Juneteenth as this day, December the 6th, really is.
Yeah,
and
because that's what they've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I like that. I mean, if Brother Clark, I don't know your thoughts about it, but literally, if and I don't mind taking a stab at drafting up a letter. Keisha, I love the way you think on it, so I'd certainly like to send it off to you guys, and
of course,
we just massage it around, and it doesn't need to be anything complex, but just asking for it, and see, that may be a great place, Brother Wells, to get Murley involved. If we could, if we could
yes, have her be signatory,
and have the letter to even come from Murley, her signature on it.
And that's why I wanted to try to set up something with you and Raina, and so y'all can discuss. And I think you could come up with something, because knowing her, I know she's going to protect her mom, and try, because her mom is not,
going to protect her legacy.
And but I think once you could explain to her, you probably could a little bit more better than I can. And just get that. I think she would be aboard. I think she would be very appreciative of what you're trying to do. And I think she'd be glad to talk to you and say, good job, young man.
So if I'm hearing in summary, the first signature would be Miss Evers, if we could, in a perfect world.
Yes.
And then everybody else who's out there in the ether who believes that this is something that they could put their name behind, they would have an electronic signature. In some way, we could accumulate those signatures and use a milestone to try and find a way to publish everybody that signed on.
Now, Keisha, and I want you all's thought to this as well. I would even go so far as to literally type their name on the, have a line, type their name underneath it, instead of just having lines there which says, I can hide in anonymity. No, we're asking you specifically,
but to sign on behalf of your organization.
Yeah, I just don't know if, for me, that's what I would do, but can I get you all's thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, that is exactly what you need to ask people, because the first folks who, as Keisha said, in LA, people are late to jump on until they can figure out who else is on. I think that's what we're looking for, is the authenticity of it, and as well as to try and make sure that the narrative is something that does cut across all the potential tribalism.
Now, from that, even with that thought in mind, if you go to these organizations, it's hard pressed for me to believe that the leadership, that single solitary person, is going to have signatory authority to commit an organization to that without going through some type of board vote.
Yes and no. Okay. So some organizations like the National Panhellenic Council, and they're comprised of all of the Divine Nine organizations, and at the national level, they are comprised of the presidents of, like, my sorority, aka Delta Sigma Theta, so on and so forth. So they are at the top, and they could sign there. It would be nice to have the NPHC sign along with the presidents of those organizations, the links, etc. And I think it's going to help when I see the draft of the letter, because I keep going back in my head. Do I want the letter to come from Murley to these organizations, asking them to reply back and say, I agree, I'm willing to sign on, and it has to be a statement. So there's a letter, and then if they agree, can you sign on to the attached statement, which says, December 6th shall be known as, or we're going to commit to encouraging our members to buy Black on December 6th.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's a letter of
Yes.
invite that only really needs a signature from Miss Evers. And if you want from the Association of Black Newspapers or from you, starting there, and then asking as a response for all of these different folks, whoever gets the letter, to sign on. And if
Yes.
you want, we could probably sneak it in to Mark Ridley Thomas out in LA, the city council person, but not going to like the city of LA, but picking off key elected officials where this may make sense. And the other thing is whether or not we can even potentially get buy-in from the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, as an issue potentially they can take up when they do their roundtable in September, I believe it is.
Yeah. And I
So
got
it's two parts. One, it's an invite
right.
from Ms. Evers and maybe a couple of organizations who've agreed to take the lead in supporting this.
Mhm.
And then asking folks if they agree, can you sign on to this statement that you agree and you encourage your members to not only understand the
Yes.
significance of it,
I love that.
but to support it.
Support it. Yes. And Brother Wells, our colleague Butch Pierre and
Okay.
Coach Pierre went to Mississippi State as well with us.
Mhm.
But Coach, I think Coach has an end to, he said that he and Mark Moriel were very good friends.
Okay.
So to be able to get Mark to be one of the big sponsors and sign on to this from the Urban League would be a big step for us going forward as well. What's your thoughts?
That sounds good. Though I think, because I was just thinking about sending a letter, some kind of record notice to some of the people like celebrities that I've gotten to know, and see what they thought of it. And those are people like John Amos, Stedman Graham, Lou Gossett Jr. Let me see who else is there. Ernie Hudson. Some of those people, just to Keith David, just to get their thoughts and about this. And because what I'm finding out, like as I mentioned before, it just not many people know or recognize that date, and what it's
Right.
the significance of it.
So let me do this and just to keep things simple and moving. So I'll take a first stab at drafting the letter.
Okay.
Keisha, I love the way that you frame things, so I certainly want to send it out to Brother
Please.
Clark.
Yeah, I don't do first drafts, but I can edit for days.
Yeah, and listen.
I'm going to send you some stuff.
And so listen, when I send this letter out, I don't need anybody worried about my feelings. We have to try to make the best letter going forward. So I'm not sensitive to issues like that. Let's collectively put it in. So I'll commit to having a letter drafted up probably in a couple of days. What's the day?
Okay.
By Monday, you'll have a letter.
Okay.
If that works for everybody.
Yeah, that works.
And I'll circle around with General Bray and kind of give General Bray some thoughts, because I gotta believe General Bray got some pretty heavy hitters in his Rolodex that he can help to initially sign on to this thing. But Keisha, I just think it's a great idea to if we can get folks to sign on, it's just our people. We're not asking for some big nothing from nobody. It's just our people
Right.
saying, hey, all the AKAs on December 6th, Black Economic and Freedom Day, we shop in black. If everybody did that, little by little, we get there, It's that simple.
I think we have enough to create a spark, so the wildfire shall begin. The parts that I wanted to shift to is I want to make sure on December 6th we start to figure out, if we're going to promote Black businesses, is how to think about those things like supply chain, quality of service, making sure that all the things that we can do to make this December 6th a day that does execute for all of the commerce that should happen. So those are the kind of thoughts that I have, but those are, again, things we can use working backwards, because I'm sure a lot of people will have some thoughts about, making sure that we have.
So even doing something monthly, Kevin, later on as you kind of plan this out, you're right. Sometimes there are concerns about quality of service. So, but we want to offer the solution. So, hey, if you plan on participating in this and you feel like you've got some needs or you want to ask some questions about making sure you're providing the best to your customer, can you attend this free seminar hosted by the Black Chambers or the United States Association of Black Chambers to teach you Customer Service 101? There's also the opportunity, Mr. Wells, I know of at least one alpha who's putting together a website, a B2B website, business to business. And I'm sure he's not the first, nor is he the last, but
Mhm.
the opportunity to start highlighting them in the beginning and seeing what that looks like. The final piece, which is a little different, but it is related to supply chain. Procurement is kind of my specialty in the city when they're not irritating me, but is in helping public and private sector to identify Black contractors and what that looks like. So maybe even there's a day somewhere around there or somehow tied to that from the US Association of Procurement Professionals, helping them to adequately source Black businesses to do business with that entity. So these are all things that can be built in, like almost a monthly thing in preparation of this day.
Very good point. Yeah, I mean, from awareness to implementation, it's just getting people really the entry points for submitting their business for qualification for some of these vendor contracts. I know that a lot of people haven't been able to learn about the opportunities for like the NBA All-Star game that's coming to LA next year. But there's been a private, well, not private, but a public effort to try and get more Black businesses to submit themselves for that.
Because they wait, this I know with the NBA and the other ones, they wait till the last minute. They didn't say, oh, can we get some Black businesses?
Yeah.
Instead of being intentional about it.
But that's one of the things that we have to try and do is to make sure that, as soon
We
as
can do a procurement. We can do a Zoom procurement supply chain thing for the public and private sector on December 6th as well.
right. And
Only focused on Black-owned businesses.
Right. And Keisha, you and I know that the Olympics in 2028, most of those vendor contracts are already gone, but whatever's left could become
And it's not,
something.
well, for the Olympics, Kevin, because that was the other thing we're working on. It's not just the vendor contracts, but it's how to be a vendor, how to make sure you actually get the certification that you're authorized. So you're not outside selling your wares, but you're inside the venue. What is that process?
That's huge. Yeah. Learning the business of procurement. That
Brother
really
Carl,
will.
I like this woman, man.
Hey, well, that's why I brought her on. So, I'm trying to source as many people like her to be part of this fight. And it's not an easy fight because, again, most folks want to be the authors. If it wasn't
Stop, Kevin, before I forget this. Let's go back to Mississippi. Maybe what we do, because we're starting off there, is we can do their procurement fair focused on Mississippi public and private sector businesses. Contracting. So you have a procurement contracting, what do we used to call it? It's meet the primes, but it's a little bit more. I call it matchmaking sessions. So we go back to public sector and privately owned businesses in Mississippi and say, let's look at what you're going to need in terms of contracting or buying widgets. Give us a list. How about we set you up with businesses, Black-owned businesses on that day? So you could go through that. We do a match. But that requires reaching out to the government there and setting that up. I've got someone who could possibly do it, but we're going to then ask the way that we funded them in the past, we made the primes pay for it. We made them host it.
But Wells got a lot of, he's got a lot of insight to Black businesses there. So, and one of the things he and I talked about was if, of actually doing a program on December 6th. But if we did that program, it'd have to be at a Black-owned venue. All the catering is Black, everything in there.
Oh, yeah.
We can't stay.
Oh, I would say do two options. You can do a virtual,
right,
and you can do an in-person.
Right. Well, we're hoping that COVID is out of the way, but I told Wells if I come down there, I can't stay in no white hotel, so I got to stay in somebody's Black house.
But But then that also means, is there a list there? Do we know the Airbnbs and everything else that is there?
Absolutely. We'll do it all. We'll do it all. But first things first, I got to get that letter. But Sister Pamela, you hadn't said a word. I need to know what you're thinking up there. You on mute.
Hi, everybody. I'm
Hi.
Pamela Gustava.
Hi,
Nice to meet all of you. I'm a good
Nice
friend
to
of
meet
Kevin's.
you.
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, I just first heard about it. What? Yes, 2 days ago, Kevin.
That would be Kevin.
So what I was sharing with Kevin about this initiative is that there are already like literally thousands, I would say, businesses that are online that are, I guess they're marketplaces for Black businesses. And
Mhm.
this is something that a lot of African Americans have taken on. And so being like maybe an association for all of them, every economic development or business entity that is for economic development for African Americans, period. You know, just like an aggregate of all of those. And that way, if this organization is like an association for all of them, somehow, at least in the sense of a database or some type of a digital platform that would have all of them together, because there's a lot of good ones out there, and there's apps and everything. So I think bringing them all together in one place possibly, as well. And by the way, I happen to have I know Merle Evers from when I was a little girl. Actually, my father was like, they were in a relationship together, actually. And so we used to actually live with her. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy that you said that was a long time ago, but yeah, Merle Evers and her daughter and all that. We lived at their house in Pasadena. I think it was in Pasadena. It was a long time ago. I was, like I said, a teenager. But anyway, yeah, because my father was a newspaper editor and publisher for economic development for African Americans way back in the day. But yeah, so that's my take on this, is to aggregate, all of the thousands of organizations that are already doing this, and then being a catalyst and a database for them, a CRM, use AI, right, Kevin? He's
Yeah.
AI
Right.
king.
And Dr. Carl, what I wanted to do is set up Pamela, because she and I have been talking for almost a decade now about how to get young people activated online and using all of the STEM or STEAM programming that's out there to get them to be part of the heavy lifting of anything that has to be done in building the websites, the portals, the database. So it becomes more of a learning module for them than a way for us to, offset the cost of making all this stuff happen. And that's one of the things that I really want to make sure is that the process involves as many educators in ways we can actually drill down to a cohort of students who could be part of this process. So they can learn everything along the way. And obviously that's a huge effort, but some part of this is academic to project-based learning. And that's what Pamela and I kind of have some agreement that if we don't get the young people involved, some new blood, some new heads, we're leaving a lot of things on the table.
I agree, but they can also, as Pamela was alluding to, help source all of the data. We don't know the 50 million folks out there doing this kind of work or that nugget, and there is no one place.
Right. Yeah. There is no one
And that's
place.
something that we could leverage the newspapers and everything else going forward too, to kind of talk about that.
Well, I think that there's a serious mountain just trying to get people aware. And I think once
Yes.
it takes off, each of us, I think each of the people who buy into it, they'll find their own unique way of going
Yeah.
and but again, I think that the things that you all are talking about, so Keisha, like you said, California is different from Mississippi. Every one of our places is different. So Brother Wells is going to find a way to make people aware of what's going on in Mississippi, California, make their, everybody will have their unique way of doing it. But what I think is central is we got to find a way to just make people aware of it. And so I want to look forward to talking to Sister Evers and General Bray about trying to get some heavy, and Butch Pierre for that matter, of trying to get Mark Moriel, because if we can get some heavy hitters to be some of those initial endorsers, yeah, I think it'll go a long way.
Maybe some of the faith-based community too, Carl.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
And believe me, I have a pastor here that's real deep. Well, I got a couple of them. And Wells, we just right there in Mississippi, Pastor Jerry Young. So Pastor Jerry Young is the pastor of the church that my mom goes to, but he's also the president of American Black Baptist Convention. And
He's got every thumb.
yeah, and you just recognized him a couple of years ago, didn't you, Brother
Yes.
Wells? Yeah, so we certainly got ends to him. And I put a little shout out to him in the calendar, Brother Wells. I don't know if you saw
Did you?
that.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Well, it was just the idea that the largest Black engineering all girls camp at his school church, and I just gave him a thank you for that.
Yeah. So too, a lot of those prominent people here in Mississippi that you're speaking of actually belong to his church.
Yeah. My mama being the number one person there.
There you go.
I just wanted to say something quickly in regards to, the program that I created. It's called STEAM Trackers, and you can find it at steamtrackers.com. Basically, we have a 1 million teen engineers challenge, where where our aim is to get 1 million underserved teens on their STEAM track, which is their science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and educational career and entrepreneurial track. And so that's the program that, Kevin and I are working on. Well, hopefully he's going to be joining our team. But one of the ways we're doing it is we're engaging teenagers that have talent, like social media influencers and actors, comedians. And these teenagers, what I have done is had them do a commercial, an audition. And so it's kind of funny that you're talking about this, because the audition it's really cute. You'd have to go on the private Facebook page to see them. But the commercial is, hey, I just got some news about, I got some crazy news, right? And so then it ends up saying, well, what is the news? And say, well, did you hear that Google, I'm sorry, not Google, but well, YouTube announced their ad revenue, right? Which is $34 billion. And the kids are like, what? Well, what percentage of that did us teens make? We're the ones making all these videos, and, and that's a part of the economic, that's a piece of our program. Right. I have a 100 module curriculum, and that's a piece of it, which is to teach kids that you're up here making Snapchat went public because of a lot of African-American teens doing, these challenge videos and things like that. I mean, it's crazy. Snapchat, YouTube, every single social media platform out there, our kids are the ones that are blowing up. Look at Ellen. She makes so much money, so much of her money on bringing on some little Black kid that, did a dance challenge and created a dance, and that got 24 million views. Well, what does that revenue, how do you calculate that revenue?
I have to trickle down.
That's a part of our initiative. Go ahead, I'm sorry, but I just want to let you know that it all ties in. And so maybe if there's something we could do in regards to making the kind of commercials that kids, because one thing we say is that, yeah, I'm not making a video about Beyonce, because when did making a video about Beyonce make me any money? This is a teenager. These are the different commercials that, I've written the scripts for, so that the kids are really thinking about, wait a minute, and then there's a lot of new initiatives now to help teenagers, especially, African American teenagers, understand their power, their economic power. I mean, we already know the whole story. Look at the NBA, NFL, and all that. They make trillions of dollars off of us. And so that needs to change. And so what you're doing, I'm sure, like, together our synergy will create how that can, merge in regards to what kinds of initiatives, or rather not initiatives, what type of advertising, or commercials or whatever, we can create, and the way we're doing it, by the way, with Steam Trackers is we're going to be paying kids. We actually have $110 a day you can win for 10 days. That's going to be launched on January 15th. And it's to answer different STEAM questions. And that's like a contest. So yeah, I just feel like we could probably maybe tie in, what we're doing with this. Let the kids do it. Like Kevin was saying, that's been our thing for the past 10 years, is getting the kids
voice and agency. Yeah, but that's part that we'll work on, trying to find a coalition of the willing to work with the academics and the educators to bring more people in. But that's kind of my why I'm doing all this. So everybody else has their own agenda, but that's what I want to do, is to build, the next generation of folks who can talk about economic development for our communities and what that means.
I'll say this. I think all of us have individually and collectively heard of the buying power of Black folks. There's been a lot of discussions about how to get it going.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to make sense to me that because of this historical tie, and I've watched the visceral reaction of people understanding the historical significance of December 6th. And then, as Keisha said, now you roll that particular day just happens to be in a period of the season where we're just spending money any daggone way.
Mm-hmm.
And now you just, so it's, to me, it's like, here's that missing ingredients. We all know we should spend more money with Black folks. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But here is that catalyst that can just get us there. I watched Wells when I talked to Wells and I gave him the presentation. I even though we were over the phone, I can hear Wells go, good Lord, this just makes sense. At that point, we were done. And I didn't talk to him anymore, and he just took off. And next thing I know, he's talking to all these folks. So I just think the simple part for me is I'm looking forward to putting together the letter, putting the letter together. And then, we'll get the buy-ins and the folks who need to get it out. And all the different offshoots that come from it, I think there'll be as many as there are of us. So I look forward to it.
That's called a reaction video, by the way, in the teen world. Like, we could have teens watch the video that's talking about it and get their reaction. And that's a thing, on YouTube and TikTok and all that. Kids watching other videos and then their reaction is like, oh my God, did you know that, kind of thing. So that's something to think about in regards to the marketing.
Well, we'll put it, I'll put it together. So Brother Clark, and I have to get off this call here. I got some things I got to get going, but what I'll do is I'll get a letter to you in a couple of days. And, as soon as you guys can give me a turnaround on it. So I'll hope that you could forward it out to everybody. And then Keisha, your comments, or Pamela, Wells, likewise, everybody put their comments on it, and, let's get something together and see what we can go with.
Okay.
And
Sounds great.
Yeah. So to the other party is, and I don't know, I mean, there was a time when I was in great demand to do speaking on Black history, and, some of those calls are coming in now, but certainly it'll be a call in every Black history lecture I do. And obviously there's a page in the calendar that speaks to it. And Wells is literally the first person to publish my thoughts on December 6th. So there you go. We'll just keep pecking away at it.
Yeah, that's it. This is going to work. I
have no doubt
about it. It's going to work because, like you said, it just makes sense. And it is, I think it's that one element that we've been looking for that's been missing that we can use to push forward as far as supporting Black businesses. I think the one element that can do it.
Yeah. We'll look forward to it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for their time. And again, Happy New Year's. And
Happy
we'll
New
look for your letter.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Nice meeting all of you. God
Nice
bless
meeting
you.
you as well.
New year.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.